Okay, so get ready, because we're going deep on this one. Today's deep dive is going to hit close to home for a lot of us, I think.
Yeah.
We're talking education. We're looking at some excerpts from this document we found titled "The Entire Education System is Broken."
Catchy title.
Yeah, and, they don't really pull any punches in this thing.
No, they don't.
It's pretty intense, but it gets you thinking, which is what we like, right?
Exactly. That's the point of the deep dive.
So this document, it really kicks off with this question, like, are we actually getting educated or are we just being conditioned?
Right from the get-go, it's like, boom, are you paying attention?
Right. And then to illustrate this point, they use this really powerful analogy about all these different animals, and they're all being forced to climb a tree.
Yeah, like, can you imagine a fish climbing a tree? I mean, that's the image, right?
Right. Like, how ridiculous is that? A fish trying to climb a tree, and you know what they're getting at with this, right?
Yeah, like judging everyone by the same standard. Doesn't make sense when we're all so different.
Well, like standardized testing.
Yeah.
Everyone's taking the same test, but we all have our own strengths and weaknesses.
Yeah, totally.
So the document's saying that you can't really measure everyone's intelligence or abilities using the same yardstick.
Right. And it kind of makes you wonder if that whole approach, that whole one-size-fits-all model is actually doing more harm than good,
Interesting.
Like, are we squashing creativity? Are we squashing individual potential?
That's a big question, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. And the document even ties it back to the Industrial Revolution.
Oh, really?
Yeah, saying that back then the education system was all about producing factory workers.
Makes sense back then.
Right. But the world's moved on. We're not all working in factories anymore.
We need different skills now, for sure.
Exactly. So the question is, has our education system kept up?
I don't know.
That's the big question.
It really makes you think about, like, what are we actually prioritizing in our education system? Like, are we prioritizing conformity over individuality?
Yeah, are we trying to fit everyone into the same mold?
Right. And what happens to those who don't fit?
Exactly.
I mean, think back to your own school experience. Did it feel like your unique skills and talents were being nurtured? Or were you being kind of pushed into a box?
Yeah, it's a good question to ask yourself.
And, it's interesting because the document actually takes us back to the origin of the word education.
Oh, yeah.
Which I never really thought about before.
Yeah, most people don't.
So apparently it comes from the Latin word educare.
Which means to draw out.
Oh, wow. I like that.
Yeah, it's about nurturing the potential that's already inside each person.
That's beautiful, isn't it?
It is. It's a much more holistic view of education.
Right. It's like each person has this unique potential, and the goal of education should be to help them blossom.
Like a garden full of different flowers.
I love that analogy.
Yeah, it's a good one.
But, the document argues that instead of drawing out, our current system might actually be more about forcing in information.
Right, kind of like stuffing knowledge into students' heads, whether it fits or not.
And that kind of brings us to this idea of a conditioned mind, which the document talks about.
Yeah, a mind that's shaped more by external pressures than genuine self-discovery.
It's almost like our minds are being molded by the system rather than allowed to develop naturally.
And the document points to a bunch of things that contribute to this conditioning.
Okay, like what?
Well, things like teachers being seen as the sole source of knowledge or strict curriculums, standardized tests, all that stuff.
Okay.
It can all contribute to creating this kind of conditioned mind.
And that kind of leads into this other really fascinating idea that the document brings up, which is normative reality.
Oh, yeah.
And it's basically about all those things that we just accept as normal without ever really questioning them.
Like we're all living in this matrix.
Well, hold on. Explain that a little bit. Okay, so imagine a world where everyone's wearing blue glasses.
Okay.
And no one ever takes them off.
So they just assume that the world is blue because that's all they've ever seen.
Okay, I'm with you.
But then someone comes along and takes off their glasses and realizes, hey, the world's actually full of color.
Whoa. I see what you're saying.
So that's kind of what the document's getting at with normative reality. It's like we're all wearing these blue glasses and we don't even realize it.
And those blue glasses are like all the beliefs and values and ways of doing things that we've just absorbed from our culture, from our families, from society.
Exactly. And we don't even question them.
It's like we're all plugged into this matrix.
Yeah. And the document is urging us to unplug.
To wake up.
To see the world for what it really is.
So how do we unplug?
Well, the document talks a lot about the importance of self-discovery.
Okay.
Really taking the time to figure out who you are, what you believe, what your values are.
And not just accepting what you've been told.
Exactly.
So it's about questioning everything.
Questioning everything.
And really being open to new possibilities.
That's how we break free from the conditioning.
You know, this whole conversation, it's kind of blowing my mind because it's making me realize that maybe our education system isn't really about education at all. Maybe it's more about control.
That's a strong statement.
I know, but think about it. Like, if we're all just being conditioned to think and behave in certain ways, then we're not really free to think for ourselves, to create, to innovate.
Right. We're just cogs in a machine.
And maybe that's exactly what the system wants us to be.
I see your point.
It's kind of a scary thought, actually.
It is.
But, you know, maybe by talking about this, by having these conversations, we can start to change things.
Maybe we can create a new system.
A system that actually nurtures individual potential.
A system that helps people blossom.
That's what I would love to see.
Me too.
So if you could redesign the education system from scratch, you know, if you could wipe the slate clean and start over, what would it look like?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it?
It is. It's a question that I think we all need to be asking ourselves. Yeah, for sure. Because the future of education, it's in our hands.
It really is.
So let's start imagining. Let's start creating. And let's make sure that the education system of the future is one that truly educates.
Beautifully said.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive.
It's been a pleasure.
And keep those minds questioning. Keep exploring. That's what it's all about. Until next time.
See you then.